Hey y'all, and welcome back to my channel. In this tutorial, we are going to create this breast cancer awareness floral peekaboo tumbler. Every now and then, I will pick someone from the comments or someone that I see a name consistently supporting our tutorials or sharing our post and make them a custom tumbler just to say thank you for all of the support. I asked this follower what her favorite things were or color, and she did say that she is a breast cancer survivor. Her favorite design that I have done is the Mama Floral Peekaboo, and her favorite color is purple. So we're going to take all of those things and put them together on a tumbler for her. So we're going to use SARAPHINA and PRISSY from PDB Creative Studio to make a custom color. I wanted pink, but I wanted it to have a little bit of a purple tint to it since we're using a purple as our top coat spray paint. Prissy is a pink with a little bit of silver mixed into it, so that's going to be perfect to match our textured silver vinyl and also to symbolize the breast cancer awareness that we're going for. And then the SARAPHINA is an opal that is absolutely gorgeous over any base color that you put it on. It can change it tremendously depending on what color you put that on. And it has a purple shift to it, so that's going to help tie in our top color and our florals. It's starting to get pretty cool here in the mornings in North Carolina, and I actually work a full-time job from home as well. So I get up at 4 a.m. to start my day, and I don't know about you, but I would rather not go outside in the cold and dark to spray paint my tumblers. So I'm always reaching for my COLORFLEX 3-in-1 paints. They have excellent coverage. It's a paint, primer, and adhesive all in one. So technically, I could have done one coat and then went in with a second coat and applied my glitter directly on top. But in this case, I had other projects going and needed to use the epoxy method for them, so I did it on this one. We only did one coat of a mixture of GLAM and white COLORFLEX paints, and then I went in with probably 1.5 milliliters of ARTISTRY's 1:1 ratio facet epoxy. You may have noticed I only painted the top side of this tumbler. We're not worrying about the bottom since we're going to do a peekaboo. That's going to be solid and with a little shimmer in our top coat. Is that glitter combination not just absolutely perfect? It is beautiful. So after we have our glitter applied, I'm just going to grab a sheet of printer paper. You can also use parchment paper. Roll my tumbler up and flatten that glitter out so we can lessen the amount of epoxy coats we have to put on this to get it smooth. I gave this a coat of epoxy, sanded lightly, and then did a second coat to make sure it was nice and smooth for our decals and spray paint. I found this breast cancer awareness leopard print file on Etsy, and the very first thing that we're going to do is resize this to wrap around our tumbler. So measure your tumbler and then you can resize this file. Then you're going to click on the little 2-layer drop down in the top right and click ungroup so we can separate these. And then I'm going to click on the pink side and remove all of those centers of the leopard spots. I don't want to do the centers. I do want to have an offset on the ribbons, but not our leopard spots. So I'm just going to remove the center of all those. And then once we have all of those removed, we're going to layer them back on top of each other and attach. And then I will cut it twice, once on a temporary vinyl so that we can use that for our peekaboo. And then we're also going to use the silver textured vinyl from Tech Wrap Craft so that we can use that for our offsets. So again, here I am just layering them back on top of each other, highlighting them both, and then attaching together. You don't want to group or flatten because that will put it all together as one. You want to attach them. The temporary vinyl I'm using is just the Hobby Lobby brand. I'm going to remove the offset and the inside of all of our ribbons. I wish that I could have edited the file to where I could have eliminated doing all of this vinyl removal and it saved me some vinyl on the textured silver sheet, but the Cricut program just wanted to constantly spin its wheels and not really go anywhere, so that's why I ended up cutting 2 full sheets. It is frustrating because it seems like a waste, especially on the textured silver vinyl. But I will be saving the leopard spots that we don't use and use those for another project. Gotta love design space, right? After I have all of the offsets removed from my ribbons and all of the extra vinyl weeded out, I'm going to take my transfer tape, cut it to size, and then just put this straight over top, press it down really well, and then trim off all the excess on the sides. Once I have all of those sides trimmed off, I'm going to trim off a little bit of that backing, maybe 1/2 inch, to expose some of those decals. So when I position this on my tumbler, I can press down that exposed portion and remove the backing from my decals so that I can just roll my tumbler straight onto this stencil. I didn't show you the paint can, but we are using Rust-Oleum Aubergine. I think I said that right. But before we spray paint, I'm going to pop on this nifty little tool that I got from Kimmy Page Boutique. It protects the cup so that your spray paint does not get inside, and it saves you from cleaning that up with acetone. And you'll see that I got impatient and went ahead and took off a couple of those spots and just tested out how the silver looked. At this point, I was a little skeptical on how this was going to turn out in the end, but as I always say, push through with those designs because most of the time they look amazing in the end. And I say most of the time because believe me, I have had my fair share of strip cups. I have a pile of them that I'm just procrastinating, not wanting to strip. But it's still better to push through to the end to see if it's going to be a successful design. And if it's not, hey, it's okay. You know what not to do the next time. Once your spray paint has fully dried, then go in and remove all of those little stencil pieces, and then it is time to add on our offsets. I'm just going to pop these up and apply them using my weeding tool, but you can most definitely weed out the center of those ribbons and then use transfer tape to apply your offsets. Once all of our offsets are on, since this is a little bit of a thicker vinyl, I'm going to do one thin coat of epoxy so this is nice and smooth to add on our printable vinyl. And I know printable vinyl is fighting words for some of y'all, but I'm going to walk you through all of the steps on how I resize everything and give you all the tips to have a successful cut. Our florals and ribbon is two separate files. The florals come from Creative Fabrica and our ribbon is from Etsy. I'll have both of those linked for you. The very first thing I do whenever I'm applying a lot of decals or trying to fit a bunch of images on one tumbler, the first thing that I do is add in a shape the exact same size as my tumbler. So I just added in a square and then resized it to the exact dimensions of my tumbler, so it's a no fail on getting these florals exactly the right size to fit my tumbler. So I did add in this decal. I have used this and shared it in the past. This is a decal that I created, and the PNG image will be pinned to the top of the Brittany Barnes Boutique Facebook group. I resized this one to 3.65 by 3.8. Highlighted both the decal image and the background and centered those so that my decal would be perfectly centered. Now I'm going to lay out the rest of my decals. First, we're going to bring everything to the front and then put on that ribbon right where the back of my tumbler will be. Now you have to keep in mind that this is going to be half on this side and half on the other, and I'm going to show you how to line that up as well, since we're looking at this as the back side of our tumbler. I am going to layer these florals on top of our ribbon. To do that, I am bringing that to the front by right-clicking and select Bring to Front. Resize those over the ribbon. Once I have that in place, I'm going to highlight both the florals and the ribbon and flatten both of those images. That is going to make them one image. They're going to cut as one. If you attach, they're going to cut. They're going to print together but cut separately, so you'll just have a hot mess. So make sure that you highlight both of them and select flatten. After you have created this image, you're going to duplicate this, and you can do this for any design that you're making. Make sure you duplicate the images that are going to be on the back side of your tumbler so that you can put half on one side and half on the other to mimic how much space they would take on the back side. Of course, we'll delete one of these in the end, but for now we need it to help us resize our other florals. I really wanted the florals on this not to necessarily take over the tumbler, but I really wanted them to stand out, especially the big ribbon on the back. So we're only going to put two of these on the front. I'm going to choose which one I like better, and then we're going to start resizing them. I'm going to bring that decal to the front so that it would be layered on top of the florals, as we're going to do once we have these printed out. And now that you have everything laid out, this is exactly how it will be on your tumbler once you place them. So after we have all of these things sized to how we want, we're going to remove that duplicate back image, going to move our decal out of the way, and then remove that square or rectangle background. I'm going to use the Buttercrafts matte printable vinyl. It is super thin and easy to work with, and it really cuts smoother than any other printable vinyl that I have worked with. Make sure that you have a newer or fresh blade on your Cricut and use your regular vinyl setting. I'm just going to use the standard design space settings for the print quality, get those printed and cut. If you are having trouble with your print to cut feature, I do have a tutorial on how to calibrate your machine and how to print and cut. I will link that down below for you just in case you are having any issues. I'm going to apply my florals using the hinge method, so just lifting them up carefully a little bit on one side and exposing a little bit of that stickiness of the decal, putting them in place and then removing the back as I am pressing the decal down. But while I'm doing that, let's talk a little bit more about the right designs to choose and the print to cut feature. So most of my flowers come from Patty Shop Art on Creative Fabrica. She is a extremely talented designer, and all of her florals have lots of elements to them. However, they're not tiny elements. When looking for florals to print to cut, you want to look for those that do not have such tiny little like sprigs and leaves and things like that. As you see, I'm trying to remove this from the back, and those little leaves can tend to stick to the paper rather than come off with the whole image, and that's fine. Normally I usually just add them on after I get my main image on, but I know that it can be frustrating pulling that off of the backing and having your image just fall apart. And it is going to take a while for these to cut. There's lots of negative space. This is a very large file. The majority of the floral files are. So your machine is going to recognize the negative space in between those flowers and cut each individual little dot out. It is going to take a while to cut, and it's going to take a while to weed that negative space out that your machine cuts. But for me, it shows more attention to detail because you can see the design that you're placing your florals or whatever that you cut using the print to cut feature. You can see the background design showing through. You can use an offset. You can highlight the florals or whatever image you're using and create an offset. However, if it is a big file, you're just going to sit there and watch the design space wheel spin. So really, it's just best to pick a time that you don't need to cut a lot of decals. That way your machine has plenty of time to cut these florals out while you're just working on other things. The transfer tape that I'm using to apply this decal is hardly sticky at all. I have put it on my shirt, the wall, whatever I could do to remove the tackiness from this, and I am just going to use my squeegee tool to help remove that back while pressing down on my decal so that it stays stuck to this transfer tape, although it's really not sticky. If you are uncomfortable with trying to do this, then definitely put a layer of epoxy in between your florals and whatever decal that you're adding to the front. As you can see, I'm very gently pressing down the decal before removing that transfer tape, and then I'm going back in and making sure that it's pressed down really well. When using printable vinyl, keep in mind that it is porous, so putting epoxy directly on top of it is going to create micro bubbles. To avoid that, we're going to seal this in with a clear spray paint, or you can do as I did and use Quick Seal from Artistry Epoxy. I'm going to add in some mega shimmer to that final coat by using Filter from COLORFLEX Pigments. And we're again using Artistry's 1:1 ratio facet epoxy. This is, I know I talk about it all the time, but it is literally my absolute favorite. It is dry enough for me to recoat in 30 minutes after the initial coat. So after this one, I can go in with either another coat of facet, because it can be used for your final coat, or a regular epoxy. And it's dry enough in 2 hours for me to add decals or take photos and videos just like this. I hope that y'all have enjoyed this tutorial and love this extra special tumbler as much as I do. It is perfect timing since Breast Cancer Awareness Month is in October, so this gives you an idea for a couple of ready to ship or custom tumblers. As always, all of the materials that I have used will be listed down in the description below, as well as some coupon codes for y'all. And don't forget, the She Is image is available for free in the Brittany Barnes Boutique Facebook group. That is all for today. Thank you all so much, and we will see you next time.